Hello, my name is Stephanie. Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. This channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, books I'm reading, things I'm cooking up, funny things the kids say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes, that you find some inspiration along the way. It is middle of October, year 2020, and I believe this is episode 46. If it is not, I will put up something on the screen correcting my mistake. It has been a while since I have come on here. I believe since like the middle of summer, maybe June, July, somewhere in there. It has been, I feel silly to say that it's been busy because I feel like it hasn't been like typical busy. We haven't done any traveling. There have been no summer camp-like activities. We've just kind of been laying low due to the global pandemic that is the coronavirus, still affecting people's daily lives all over the world. And we are doing our part by staying close to home as much as possible, staying at home, not hanging out with friends, and just kind of finding a new routine, a new balance in our everyday life. I don't feel right calling it a new normal because I feel like normal is different for everybody, but two, what are you comparing normal or not normal to? And it doesn't seem normal to be in the state that we are in right now. Somebody's crying. I'll be right back. Hello again. I think that interruption would be a case in point as to why I haven't been recording or uploading videos here on my YouTube channel. So I think I was saying over the summer that we've been pretty much hunkered down at home. We do go on walks through our neighborhood, nearby parks. We are fortunate enough to live somewhere where we can get to a park within a 5 to 10 minute drive in any direction, so that is pretty wonderful. There are a lot of nature preserves and is it preserve? Reserve? Nature parks around, and that is kind of our happy place. We just love being outside in nature and exploring and just following the trails, listening to the birds, and that has been great for us. I won't say like that's something that's different since the pandemic of staying at home. We do that even when there isn't a pandemic. So, but yeah, and then we got to September and schools here start after Labor Day. So it's usually the first week of September. And our school district allowed families to choose between full-time distance learning or a hybrid or blended model. And the full-time distance learning, you are assigned a teacher and a class, and you have a structured day, which is really nice. We did not have a structured day back in the spring when we first had to go to distance learning at the start of the pandemic. And then the hybrid or blended learning model, students are divided into two cohorts. You go in on Monday, Wednesday, every other Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, every other Friday. And on the days that you are at home, you do not have an assigned teacher, but you're kind of on your own, is my understanding. I am being interrupted again. I will come back later. So I'm back again. The first interruption, somebody was crying because they got pushed. And the second time, nobody was crying, but they wanted to tell me the weather and that it is going to snow tomorrow. So that's exciting. I say that not with sarcasm font. We like the snow here and we enjoy the chilly cold weather, and we did have our first snow of the season already. It did not stick, but it was beautiful. It kind of snowed off and on, or maybe like twice that day. They were big fluffy flakes, but because it was hovering around freezing, it melted pretty quickly, which then made for raking of the leaves, really wet leaves, but it was still fun. So more snow is coming, and we're here for it. But yes, so lots of interruptions. It's just typical mom life, parent life, and when you have two little kids, something that we have been working on is self-sufficiency. So my kids are still little, but they're past the stage of potty training and diapers, and they can communicate pretty effectively. And I feel like there are things that they can do on their own. And so we're kind of working on that, I suppose. Like being able to reach things or get things and fix certain breakfasts or meals and things like that. So nothing like using the stove or anything potentially hazardous, although I feel like kids can turn anything into something potentially hazardous, but just simple things. So it gives them the responsibility of being able to do something for themselves and something they can feel proud of. And it hopefully lessens the number of times someone calls for mom throughout the day. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, that's something that kind of changes day to day or week to week as the kids develop their own ways of doing things and feeling confident, and things that I'm okay with them doing or not, and just kind of seeing what their abilities are at any given time. But I do feel like it's important for them to have a sense of responsibility and be able to feel proud of doing something on their own. So that's something that we're kind of working on as an aside to all the school stuff. But yeah, so yeah, that was what I was talking about before the last interruption. So our family had discussions with our children, and full-time distance learning was the best option for us. Without going into any details, that is what's working best for our family, and every family situation is different. And so far, so good. And she has a set schedule every day, and there's certain things that happen at certain times. There are live lessons with her teacher throughout the day with independent work time in between, so that she gets some break from the screen. We also have a break for an hour for lunch and recess in the middle of the day. And so having a more structured day helps us plan activities and just having an expectation of what is going on day to day. And the activities, I mean, for planning, I mean, like for the younger one. So we have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so I'm doing my own kind of schooling play stuff with the 4-year-old at home. And just having timing of things helps us plan around our second graders' schedule. It just makes for a better balance throughout the day versus like kind of a free-for-all, which is what we had in the spring, and that was really, really challenging. But yeah, so I feel like things are going really well. We are so grateful for our good health and for a brand new day every day to kind of start over or reset as we need to, because there are definitely days where the reset button is hit a few times. Yeah, it's a test of patience for sure. And I will say that patience has never been my strongest, is it virtue? Strongest, anyway, I'm just not a very patient person. I don't think I could be more patient. So being at home with the kids literally 24/7, but basically tests my patience every day. But it is something that I am working on. And yeah, so lots of reset buttons as we need them. I hope you are doing really well. And my hope is to record like a full-length episode, but I'm not sure how that's going to happen, seeing as how I've been interrupted basically every few minutes, but I do have a lot that I want to show you. I probably won't show you all the projects that I have finished since I last recorded, since there have been quite a few. I'll just kind of pick and choose some to talk about. And I do have some works in progress. My work in progress list has diminished some, but as you might know, cast off, cast on. As long as the needles are free and I'm inspired, I will cast on another project. I do have some projects on a list that I am really excited about. I don't know if I will make them or not, but just kind of things on my radar. So I want to share those with you as well. So I think what I'm going to try to do is kind of record as I go throughout the day, as I am able to, versus trying to bite out a large chunk in one sitting, because that's just not going to happen. And then there will just be a lot of editing and me being frustrated and not being patient. So yeah, hopefully this goes well and we'll see what happens. I hope you join me throughout this episode and find some inspiration. So I'll talk to you later. Bye. So I thought I would take a few minutes to chat about some finished projects. I'm not going to go through all of them like I mentioned earlier, because there are quite a few, and mostly socks, I would say, are the ones that are quite a few, and a lot of them are just a basic vanilla or simple stockinette sock. And I will maybe I'll do like a slideshow of them while I talk about socks, so you have something that you can see versus getting out each pair, and some of them may be in the to wash pile already, and a few of them I think are gifts, so to not have to like compile all of them together, I think I have photos of all of them, and those I can just kind of show in a slideshow. But before I get into socks, I would love to talk about one of the finished projects that I am wearing. It is the Super Simple Summer Sweater by Joji Locatelli, and I knit it as part of her fall knit along, hashtag Joji Fall KAL 2020. This, I believe she said, is her 9th year hosting this knit along, and it is huge, like thousands of projects registered. And I've never been in a make along where you had to register a project, but from what I understand, it makes it easier for drawing prizes and things like that. Now, of course, if you want to follow along in the make along and not be eligible for a prize, that is totally fine too, because the most of it is making things together in a fun way. And so her knit along started September 1st and it runs through the end of November 2020, and it's knit any of her patterns, and she has tons of patterns, accessories, garments. And so one of the projects I registered for is this Super Simple Summer Sweater. I have had it in my queue for quite some time. Basically, it's a basic sweater that I just could see as being very versatile in my wardrobe, and something that you can mix and match lots of different colors. You can use commercial yarn, you can use indie dyed yarn, you can use speckles, variegated solids, tonals, whatever you wanted to. So it was something that was really appealing to me. And I believe the pattern is written for worsted weight. I probably should have the pattern printed out in front of me, but I don't. So, and the pattern gauge is, let's see, I have my notes here. So this is my project book. It has the little dots on the pages, which makes it really easy to write in a straight line. and to chart out ideas, to draw diagrams, to kind of play around with maybe a color work pattern. So I really like it. The way I organize it is in the front I have kind of a table of contents that I write down all my different projects on. I'll have a start date, finish date, frogged date in case it just didn't work out. And then all my projects are written in there. I won't show you a page because oftentimes there's information on there that's related to a paid for pattern. So I don't feel right showing you the details of that. But I can tell you the general gist is that I have my title, I have a start date, I have a finish date, any notes relevant to the pattern in general, and then I will write out the gauge, needle size, yarns I used, and to the right of the yarns I used, it'll also have a start weight, finish weight, used weight, so that I can keep track of everything that I used for the project. So, oh yeah, so going back, looking at my notes for this particular project, pattern gauge is 17.5 stitches by 28 rows. Using a US 6 or 4 millimeter size needle. Now I ended up getting gauge going up a needle size, so I went to US 7, and the weight of yarn I used is probably closer to DK than it is worsted, so it makes sense that I had to go up a needle size. I decided to go with this speckly cream yarn and then pairing it with this kind of chartreusey apple green color. And I love it so much. I wanted a sweater that did not have any shaping to it. I did knit it a little bit longer, and I just wanted something that I could throw over. And I'm looking outside because it's snowing. None of it's sticking quite yet. It's just kind of like a light flurry, and it's so beautiful, and it is definitely sweater weather. But yes, so I did knit it longer. Sleeves I had to knit longer. I can't remember in the pattern if they're written for 3/4 length sleeves, but I have found that with the sizes that I knit for myself, which is usually the smallest or second smallest, the sleeves are never long enough. I don't know if I just have extra long arms or that's just how it grades out, but I always end up knitting my sleeves a few inches longer. And that's not even to make them like covering up my hand, it's just to make them to the length that sometimes a pattern is written for. I end up having to knit it longer. But yes, so with this one I knit the smallest size, and I did a few extra stripes in the body. It is a split hem. I don't know if I can get here high enough. And then the split hem is supposed to be even length in the back and the front, but I decided that to make it easier to tell which way is the back or the front when pulling out my sweater is to make the back slightly longer. So it's a split hem, so I just ended up knitting a few more extra rounds of ribbing in the back than in the front. And I really, really like that. I don't think I modified much more. Oh yes, I picked up a couple extra stitches in the armhole for doing the sleeves. It is knit top down in the round. Excuse me. And also because I find a lot of times sleeves to be too narrow for the sizes I knit, so I don't like my sleeves to be constricting. So yeah, I picked up a couple extra stitches, and then I didn't do any decreases until right before I was doing the ribbing. I did knit my sleeves on little circulars. I think they were like, I think I used a cable cord for 9 inches maybe, to go round and around. Some people recommend going up a needle size if you're doing that round and around for your sleeves, just so that your gauge doesn't get as affected. So I think I'll try that next time, but it worked out really well for me to just pick up a few extra stitches, and it closes up this hole in the armpit much better. Also leaving a long end when you are picking up for the sleeve so that you can duplicate stitch in the areas so you close up any holes, I thought worked out really well. So super happy with this project. I had one thing where the speckly yarn is a one of a kind, and the second skein of it was actually quite different from the first one, which is again just fine. If you kind of look at the speckling here, this one's a lot more neon rainbowy, whereas this one has more of just like green and red speckles. So then I did kind of fade it in to make it blend a little bit better, but because they are color blocked in striping, I feel like it's not as drastic of a contrast as if like maybe it was all supposed to be this way and like cuts halfway and then you change your speckles. So I did kind of fade it in so it wasn't as big of a difference, but honestly, I don't think it really matters. So that is my super simple summer sweater. So another sweater that I finished this summer, I think I finished this one in August, is another Love Note sweater by Tin Can Knits. Now I ended up knitting 2 of these. I'll put the pictures here, maybe right here side by side. And I knit them a little bit differently, both with modifications from the original pattern. It is a wonderful pattern. I didn't modify it because I didn't like the pattern. I just modified it to change the fit and the style of it, and to match the yarns that I was using. So the first one I used a mohair by Traveling Yarn or Less Traveled Yarn, and that essentially allows me to not have to hold mohair with a fingering weight, which is what the pattern calls for, or you just knit with a DK weight. So I just knit it single-stranded with this yarn called mohair. And so that gave this beautiful ethereal effect, and I did go down needle sizes to have a denser fabric because that's what I wanted. And I did I-cord bind-offs for the sleeves and for the body instead of ribbing because I didn't want it to come back in. I just kind of wanted this flowy, and I did do the extra short rows in the back, so then for the light purple sweater, it kind of gave this A-line effect. And then for my second one, I knit in this apple green color, and I did do the high-low hem, and I did do the ribbing on that one, so it didn't like flow out A-line, but just like more of a regular high-low hem, I guess. And I love both of them so much. So the first one I did 3/4 length sleeves, kind of open, and then the second one I did full length sleeves, and I didn't do any decreases until right before the ribbing, which is kind of my thing, I think. But yes, I used US 7 needles for the body ribbing and sleeve cuff ribbing for the green sweater, and then the US 8 for the body. And I think I did the US 8 for the neckline ribbing too, because, so the second one I used a mohair plus merino cashmere nylon blend yarn from Dyed by Colleen at Little Lionhead Knits, and it's so soft and beautiful. There's a little bit of subtle speckling, and that color is just so autumnal, and I was just dreaming of this like fuzzy halo sweater that was just so cozy and easy to throw on over things. I did make that one more cropped than the first one, so it goes perfectly over dresses, and it's layering, all about layering. But yeah, so that one has the full length sleeves, and it's so cozy and so soft, and I just love it. And so with that one, let me think, what did I do differently? Bind off, I used Lori's Twisty Bind Off, which is less flary or maybe a little less stretchy than the Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off, and it gives you like a cleaner finish without it being super tight of a bind off. And for the sleeves, I did pick up extra stitches in the armhole again, and that one's also knit in the round top down, just to close up holes and to make those sleeves a little bit wider, which is a look that I like. And I'm trying to look at my notes here. I don't believe there was anything else for that. I did do a wider neckline for both of them because since there's mohair in those sweaters with the yarn that I used, having mohair like super close to my neck just didn't sound very appealing. Now, I don't think I have any allergies to mohair or it makes me super itchy, but just having like a tight crew neck with mohair, I don't know, it just made me like feel kind of itchy. So I just made it a little bit wider. It's a layering piece anyway, because with the lace, I don't feel comfortable wearing that without something on the bottom. I think I also made my lace yoke end slightly higher than some versions that I've seen where the lace extends a little bit farther. So I did that by just doing less rounds up by the ribbing, and so that the lace starts a little bit higher and then it ended a little higher. So love, love, love my Love Note sweater. I feel like one is slightly more like springy feel, and then one is definitely more autumn, and it just turned out really nice. So I can definitely, well, not definitely, I have been wearing them since finishing those projects. So those are my sweaters. I don't think I have, let me check my other notebook. Now this notebook I use specifically for my episodes here. Yes, I think those are the two sweaters that I have knit and that I wanted to talk about. So next up might be accessories like hats and socks. All right, welcome back again. This next section, I'd like to talk a little bit about accessories that I have made over the last few months. And then, something I forgot to mention in the beginning of this episode is that links to all my projects can be found below. I do create project pages on Ravelry for everything that I've made. If Ravelry is not accessible to you, I also share a lot of project photos on my Instagram, and that is also linked below in the description box. Some of the projects I do include a decent amount of project notes on those posts on Instagram as well, and you're also welcome to message me on Instagram or through Ravelry if you have any questions about any of the projects that I have made. You're also welcome to comment below. If any of your questions have to do with a paid for pattern, like specifics, unless you have also bought the pattern, I will refrain from discussing like specifics that give away information that is not my own modification from the pattern, if that makes any sense. So, with that said, now that I've gotten that out before I forgot to mention it again, I'd like to talk about some hats. Now, this is the Held Together hat pattern by Lindsay Fowler. I want to preface it by saying that I don't always love knitting something that is ribbing because of the repetitiveness of knit and purl and knit and purl, or knit, knit, purl, purl, or whatever the case may be. I don't mind the repetitiveness of stockinette, round and round, which is all knit, but having to like stop and purl kind of slows me down a little bit. It might just depend on how you knit as well. I won't say that I don't like purling, like I'm okay with purling, but just ribbing sometimes can get kind of monotonous, but not necessarily in a great way. That being said, this hat, yes, is ribbing the entire thing. However, it is fingering weight held double to achieve a DK weight, and it is knit on, let me look at my notes, a US 3.25 millimeter needle. I used a 16-inch so that I didn't have to do magic loop, and then it just goes right around. Literally the entire thing is ribbed from the beginning to the end. However, what keeps it engaging and fun is that you are changing up colors to create a marled effect. Now you can use the same color throughout for your main color section if you want. That will probably give you the most contrast, but then you will have these color blocking stripes in the beginning that are where you would fold up for the brim. So then you will drop one and then add in another color, and then drop that one, add a new color, and then go back to your initial first color, and then go back to holding the main color double. This pattern comes in a wide range of sizes. I don't have it pulled up to tell you how many, but it starts from like baby all the way to a larger adult size. And granted, so it's ribbing, so it can stretch to be a wide variety of sizes, but the sizing, including the pattern, does help you adjust your striping and where it lands and how many rounds each color gets, depending on the size that you're knitting. It is meant to be worn with a folded brim, and then your length from cast on edge to finishing off will also change depending on the size that you are knitting. And just note that, let's say you're like thinking between sizes, if you're gonna go down a size, then your hat will stretch a little more than if you went up a size. So that might change your length of the hat. Well, I knit both of these for our two daughters, and I knit the same size. I think I knit the child size, but then I just knit the older ones slightly longer than the younger ones. And it's so, is flexible the right word? Fluid, maybe? I'm kind of at a loss for words right now, but maybe flexible. Because of the ribbing, it can fit so many different sizes. You don't have to know someone's head circumference exactly. So I find this a really good gift knit as well. And if you have random bits and bobs of fingering weight yarn, the striping hardly uses any yardage. So it's a great way to use up yardage there. This hat, I mean, just to show you, can stretch. Granted, my head, I feel like it's a little bit on the smaller size for an adult, but it fits and it even covers up my ears. But if I knit an adult size, then it wouldn't stretch out as much and there would be more of the fold over part. I noticed some of the project photos had some people wearing theirs like kind of right above the ear or just a little bit covering the ear. I prefer my hats to cover all of my ear. Same with my kids and my husband. Everybody wants them all covered. Probably also because we're not going to be wearing hats unless it's pretty cold here, and it does get pretty cold, and so that fold over brim provides extra warmth, and it would just be silly if it was above our ear than covering our ears. These two hats have gone on lots of nature hikes already this fall. I wanted them bright so I can spot my children as they are running away from me, and they're just cheery and fun. And I used the same 3 colors for both of them, just changed out which one was the main color. So yes, these are both a big hit between the kids, and I love them. Alright, so we just talked about hats, and the next thing I wanted to share with you is the Wanderlust cowl by Tiff it's Tiff Nealon Hand Knits. It is a test knit that I did for Tiff. Now I've test knit several of her patterns. I find her patterns very well written for a beginner or an experienced knitter, and it basically lays it all out for you so there's no guesswork, which is really nice, honestly. Now this pattern comes in 2 options. You can either knit it with 1 full skein and 5 minis or 3 full skeins. Now since mine was a test, we did have some yardage issues, but those have all been sorted out in the final pattern. And so some of the testers where their color placement may be is a little different. But all that to say, it is such a fun project and pattern, and I did option B, so the one with 3 full skeins, and this is mine. It is meant to be worn kind of like an oversized cowl, but because of its unique shape, I find it very versatile. Like, I can wear it more over my shoulders, which is usually the way I like to wear it because I don't like cold shoulders, or you can wear it more kind of in the front where it's drapey like a cowl. I feel like you can even turn it around and wear it more asymmetrically, where the longest point is more on the side or the back. Standing up really isn't helping you any because you can't see it, but I will insert photos in so that you can see it in its full length, in full version. But what I enjoyed about this is that there's a lot of texture and garter, and the eyelets are simple. That's pretty much as lacy as I go. Yes, I knit those 2 Love Note sweaters, but I love the look of lace. I don't like knitting it. So eyelets are pretty much as far of lace knitting type of things as I do. And it was just a beautiful way to show off different colors. I do recommend they have some contrast, otherwise your eyes might kind of not like you when you're doing some of the sections that use 2 colors to know which one you're supposed to be knitting on. So I picked 3 that are very complementary. So there's a light pink, there's kind of an olivey tonal color and then a cream with speckling that has both the pink and the olive green. I just love how it came together. And it's so comfy, so cozy, so easy to just throw on over a jacket or tuck under a jacket. It's not so bulky because it's also fingering weight, and I really appreciate that. Something I forgot to mention, needle size. I did go down 1 needle size. Tiff tends to knit a little tighter than I do, so for most of the patterns that I knit by her, I go down 1 needle size, and when I did my gauge swatch, that proved to be correct. I really, really liked it. It was a new type of construction for me. There is a 3 needle bind off, not to be scared about. It's fine. It's fun. I actually kind of enjoy doing them. If I can find it, I'll show it to you. I think it gives it a really clean finish. And that's what joins it together to make this lovely oversized cowl. Next, I think I will show you a parade of socks. I think what I'll do is just kind of have a slideshow of socks going, and then I might point out some of them and talk a little bit about them. So from knitting so many socks, I will tell you first off that August is my 1-year anniversary from starting my sock knitting adventure, and it has been so much fun. Sock knitters are such good cheerleaders for each other. If you have any doubts or questions or concerns about sock knitting, I highly recommend Denise of Earth Tones Girl. She has a whole series of how to knit socks on her YouTube channel, and she's just such a great cheerleader. So if you don't know where to start, I recommend going there. But yeah, so after knitting so many pairs of socks, I've kind of decided I really prefer the plumper sock yarns. So the ones that are like 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and at least 400 yards for 100 grams or less yardage, so which would make it even more plump. I don't know, something about it. I really like how they wear. I really like how they feel. They are a little bit warmer, and living in a cold climate where it basically has a chance of snow anywhere from October through May, it's nice to have thicker socks. That being said, I have nothing against the lightweight fingering yarns. I feel like those are great held double. Those are great in shawls, and you can still make socks out of them. That's great too. They're just lighter weight. So yeah, I think after knitting a bunch of socks, that's something that I've noticed is kind of my preference right now. Now, granted, that can change at any given time. Maybe it's just because it's colder right now and that's what I'm gravitating towards. Who knows? But yeah, I feel like sometimes knitting with different kinds of yarns can also change how you, change your preferences, because you don't know what's out there unless you try, right? I had the opportunity to knit with some superwash merino yak nylon blend yarn, and that was really nice. There was kind of a slight grip to it. That's not even the right word. I can't think of what the word is, but it just felt a little different on the needles, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it, and because there's kind of a brown natural color underneath, all the colors dyed on top of it are this muted doesn't seem the right word, and yet it's not vibrant, but this richer color. It's almost as if you put this like brown filter over it, and that I loved. And aside from that, I don't think I've knit with any other like different blends for a sock yarn recently, but yeah, I feel like socks are kind of a good comfort knit, especially ones that don't have a pattern on it, because I literally just go round and round, and because I'm knitting in the round, I can pick it up and set it down at any point. I don't need to count anything. I don't need to get to a beginning of round. I just stop and pick it up again. And that has been really nice. Oh, something I want to share is we have earplugs at home because I'm a really light sleeper. And granted, I don't use earplugs while I'm sleeping at home, but when we were traveling and stuff, I'd always have earplugs with me because I am a very light sleeper, and sleeping in different environments usually have different sounds. Well, now that we're not going anywhere, we still have earplugs, and they work really great as needle stoppers. So basically, I take clean ones. I take one and I snip it in half, and then you have a pair, and they fit. I don't have a needle here right now. I'll just show you through a yarn needle. They're perfect for any size needle because this foam makes it easy to poke through, and it expands, and well, it's foamy, so it's not very rigid, and yet it holds because it's got enough like grip to it. It's not just gonna like fall off in your project bag, or if anybody pulls anything out. Yeah, it stays really well. So if you have earplugs at home, clean ones, you have lots of needle stoppers. All right, welcome back again. I think this will be the last segment that I can squeeze in. I know I wanted to mention a couple of things that of patterns that I am interested in making as well, but I'm not sure I'll be able to get an in-depth discussion about that part, or I have the time to squeeze that in today without other people and myself becoming frustrated. So we are into the works in progress. Now, it's no secret that I am not a monogamous knitter. So I like to have several works in progress going on at the same time in varying gauge, like different that use different needle sizes, that might use different parts of my brain, in the sense that some are more meditative while others maybe require a little more brain work, I guess. Maybe my brain's not working very well right now. But anyway, so I tend to have a few going on at the same time. And then I also start my gift knitting for the Christmas season earlier so that I am not completely stressed out in November. I like to enjoy the seasons. I like to enjoy the holidays. I like to enjoy my family, not being this stressed out person that is, I don't know, I just don't like being irritable. And so, yeah, so then I just end up with a lot of projects going on simultaneously. So the works in progress I'd like to share with you aren't necessarily all of the ones I have going on right now, but the ones that I would just like to mention. So let's see. One of the ones I'd like to mention, grab it here, is the Wispy Shawl by Joji Locatelli. She released it after her knit along started. However, it can be counted as part of the knit along because any new patterns released during the time frame of the knit along you can still register for as part of the knit along. So I had left over mohair in that moonstone colorway from my first Love Note sweater, so that is what I am using. The pattern calls for mohair and using singles merino for part of the contrast, but I don't like knitting with lace weight mohair held single. I can't feel it. I can't like on my needles, it's harder for me to maneuver, and I don't know, I just don't like it. So this mohair is different. It is heavier weight. It is at, it's under 400 yards per 100 grams. So it's definitely not lace weight. And it still has that beautiful halo, and yeah, it'll knit up at a different gauge, but that's okay because it's a shawl and I don't usually measure gauge for shawls. And then my contrast in a not so contrast color is this sparkly, very pale lavender. I don't know if the sparkles will. I think they're being captured okay. You see some sparkly stuff? So my progress on this is here. It's kind of bunched up a little bit because I believe it's longer than the cord is now, but I won't go all the way to the end there. So you'll see there's my contrast. And if you knit it only in mohair, the holes will be bigger, so it won't be as dense of a fabric. But I kind of like the fabric that it's creating. This mohair silk mohair has quite a bit of silk in it, so it's going to be super drapey once it's blocked out. And I don't know if I can capture the halo on there. You see the fuzz? Oh, so pretty. Now this project does not require a ton of brain work. There's just a couple sections that you just repeat, and then it's stockinette on one side and purling on the other side, or knit on one side, purl on the other side to create a stockinette fabric. So that is one that I'm working on. That I don't do it every day, but here and there, I guess. And oh, so the Hohi's Knit Along goes until the end of November, but obviously, like, if you don't finish in that time, it doesn't matter. You just keep going later. You just can't submit it in a finished objects thread for the Knit Along. Okay, another project I'd like to share with you is the Litmus Cowl by Amy Florence. Now she has this one. You're using US 4 3.5 millimeter needles, and I'm knitting mine on a 16-inch circumference needle because then I don't have to use magic loop, and then I also don't have to use DBNs. Gauge is 27 stitches by 35 rounds, and she's recommending 225 grams or 900 yards of fingering weight. So the way I'm doing it is using self-striping yarn, Knit Picks Felici, so I don't have to, Felici? I'm not sure. If you know, comment below. So that I don't have to be switching up yarns at all. So hers, the color blocking is a lot bigger, so it's maybe like 3 of these stripes, and then you have a color, and then it's a solid, and then you change the color, and it's back to that original solid, and so on and so forth. There's a provisional cast on, and then you will, when you finish, you will join it together, so then it will look seamless, and then the stripes are worn this way, not this way. So I'm pretty excited about this. I am using 2 of this ribbit colorway. So of course that'll only give me 100 grams. Now I'd like to see where I'm at by the end of that. Could it be like a single loop versus a double loop? Because the pattern originally calls for it to be wrapped around. Now I do have another color that I think could go well. It's Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in Mint. Super soft. I've decided Stroll doesn't work well for hard wearing socks because I used a Stroll contrast color in one of the socks for my kids, and within the same day of her wearing it outside onto like brick and walking around, it was so fuzzed up. Now, I don't mind socks getting fuzzy. I mean, they're meant to be worn, and but I don't want it to like wear out in a week if she decides to wear it every day. I'm not going to limit her on when or where she's wearing her socks. So she didn't wear a hole in them, but fuzzing would mean there's wear, right? And if it keeps doing that, then eventually it'll wear out. And if it wears out over a year, like, that's not a big deal, but yeah, maybe not wear out in like a week. Anyway, so This super soft stroll does have nylon in it, so it shouldn't like wear completely into a hole, but anyway, tangent. So I want to put this and this together. Now these together will only give me 150 grams, not 225 grams. So we'll just kind of see how this ends up with this two first, and then kind of see where the length is. If it's going to be too awkward to add this on, maybe I won't, but if it won't be too awkward, I'll add it on. And then if I do still need more, then I'll probably try to look for like a gray to finish it off, or this teal color, or this green. So we shall see how that goes. This is what I have left of the first 50 grams. But yes, I enjoy it. Again, round and round, not much thinking. It's quick and easy to pick up, put down. And that is what I need right now, especially with the kids home 24/7. When we first started the school year, there was a lot more, what should we call it, tech support needed maybe. So a lot of running up and down, trying to figure out where her windows disappeared to, how to get into certain programs. Today we had a sad incident where she was working really hard on an assignment and then it got deleted. So I had to tell her that this is just part of the process of working with computers. We have projects deleted, we have papers deleted, things don't save. Autosave has been awesome, but I'm pretty sure the program she's using doesn't have autosave. I am a very frequent Control-S saver of things because I get so panicky about things disappearing. I'm also very much a pencil paper person, which doesn't just disappear. Yes, you can lose your piece of paper, but I feel like that's different than accidentally closing a window and then something disappearing. I'm not going to accidentally like flip the page in my notebook and then that page disappears. Anyway, so tangent. Now I think the last work in progress I would like to share with you is the hyphenated sweater by Jamie Hoffman. I have had this pattern, I think she released it last year. I really like the color work on it. It is a fingering weight sweater, which I'm not as drawn to. I like DK weight sweaters more because they just work up quicker, but I love the detail you can get in color work with fingering weight yarn because you've got more stitches per inch. If you think of it like pixels, so it's higher resolution because you have all those pixels, which means you can make more intricate designs. And well, I was telling myself, no, I don't need to cast on a colorwork sweater. I don't have the brain power for that right now. And definitely not fingering weight because we're going into winter. It just didn't quite seem like a good idea. But the needles were free, the yarn combination was there, and I just cast it on. Yeah, I really like it. Although within a few rounds I messed up and I decided not to go back and fix it. If it still bothers me later, I'll just duplicate stitch over it. Basically, I miscounted a repeat pattern for the color work and then I skipped some parts. But I was consistent for the whole round, so at least it looks the same for the entire part. But yeah, I think it's pretty easy to duplicate stitch it later if I really want to. Would you like to see it? So this is the start. Here's the back. You'll see the short rows here, which extends extra rounds there without adding extra stitches. There's the front. So the ribbing for the collar, and then here's the color work. The yarns I'm using for the main color, I'm using this brown Killabore. It's the Yarn Collective Fleurville 4-ply, and it's 100% superwash merino. It's super soft. It is a plumper fingering weight yarn coming in at under, I don't know if I have it written down, I think it's 382 yards for 100 grams. The pattern is written for light fingering weight, and so that is actually what I'm using for my color work. This is a Teal Torch Knits Gradient. And you can't really see the whole thing because I have it wound in a ball. And this light fingering, I believe is, I think it's a 463 yards for 100 grams. And I had used it for another project that I ended up frogging, and so that's why it's wound up in a ball. It does start out with a cream color, and I cut out the remaining of the cream color and then just wound that into a mini. I think it ended up being like a 10-gram mini or something to use for something else because I wanted to get into the rest of the color. The colors, I believe, go to this peachy, into a pink, and maybe like a lavender, and then a purple, and I can't remember what else, but maybe that's it. But according to the pattern, the amount of yardage or grams that you need for the contrasting colors, I want to make sure I get through most of the range. If I don't get to the darkest, that's okay because I don't want it to be hard to see against this brown, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time on just the cream part, especially since that comes first, which is when you have less stitches on top, which then means you'll have more of the cream before you get into the other colors. So I cut that one out and then started with the peachy color, and I'm really excited to see how it's growing. I am probably, let's see, about a third, almost a third of the way through the color work chart so far, and I am on the peachy color still, but I'll be getting into the pink soon, and then with increases, your color work sections will get longer and longer, which means you'll eat up more yarn as you go. So that's one that I'm pretty excited about. I have no deadline for this. It's not anything I have to finish by a certain deadline. It's just kind of nice to have that brain exercise of a color work sweater on the needles. So I don't know about you. Do you like find projects that exercise different parts of your brain or give different rest periods for different projects? Or some people have like palette cleanser projects in between, like a quick hat or maybe a pair of socks, or anyway. So I just have a bunch of different kind of projects going on simultaneously. So of course I have to have a pair of basic or vanilla socks on the go as well. And these are sport weight socks in one of my favorite commercially available yarns, the Patton's Croy sock yarns. They come in a variety of colors, marled and gradient, and they're more of a sport weight. And let me see if I can find the 166 yards for 50 grams. So that's under 400 yards for 100 grams. And I am knitting them 2 at a time concurrently on 2 separate 9-inch circular needles. I find that to be the quickest way for me to knit like vanilla socks, because I am constantly just catching up with the other one, and then my tension is more even, versus like if I finish one, kind of lose steam on it and then pick it up like months later, my tension might be different. So then if I do them at the same time, I can just do the cuffs. I'll do those on double pointed needles or 32-inch circulars, because I don't really love purling on the 9-inch circulars, and then I'll knit them onto the 9-inch circulars. Then I'll do my heel flap and gusset on the double pointed needles or longer needles and magic loop, and then I'll go back to the 9-inch circulars to finish out either. Sometimes I do the gusset on the longer needles, and then, or sometimes I just switch back onto the 9-inch, either way. But these are on the gusset sections currently. I am using US 1.5 needles instead of US 1, and because of the thicker weight, and then I cast on 48 stitches. My typical sock stitch count for US 1 using fingering weight is 56 stitches, and so I used 48 for these. So it's going pretty quick. And then when I finish, I think I might have enough yarn to knit my daughter a pair of socks from this yarn as well. If I don't have enough, I might just get a contrast. I think I have flax that I can use as a contrast, which is close to this color, kind of a brown, warm brown gray color. So I can use that for her contrast to knit her a pair of socks out of this yarn as well. So I think that is all I have to share with you today. I thank you so much for joining me. If you are new, welcome. If you are returning, thanks for coming back after all these months. I just feel like, you know, during global pandemic, sometimes you have to shift your priorities a little bit. The environment has changed outside of our home, within our home, and we need to adapt and protect not only our physical health, but also our mental health, and just kind of shift things around and find find our new balance, and that may change day to day. It's not going to just stay like this. Sometimes it teeters and we have to adjust to kind of make it work for all of us. And as a parent, you know, you are always trying to find that balance for your own mental health and stability and that of your children and the well-being of your family as a unit. So that is just something that we have had to continuously work on, and it continues to evolve. So with that, cheers to being creative, and not just in knitting, but in all ways of life. And I hope you are being healthy and you are staying safe. So until next time, cheers.